Welcome the timeless, forgotten mystery. In the dark depths of the ocean, nearly 13,000 feet below, a secret battle is unfolding among 19 nations, one their governments don't want the public to know about. This vast area you see is called the Clarion-Clipperton Zone, the main battlefield of this silent war. It's so massive that 25 countries the size of the UK could fit inside it. But what's hidden here that makes nations pour billions of dollars into reaching the ocean floor? Deep in the sea, where even sunlight cannot reach, billionaires are deploying giant robotic machines. These machines crawl across the seabed, extracting stones and hauling them to the surface. But why all this effort? Because the Clarion-Clipperton Zone is one of the most famous places for deep-sea mining, literally a money-printing machine for the rich. Research suggests this single area alone holds metals and minerals worth trillions of dollars, estimated at around $16 to $17 trillion. The most sought after are manganese, nickel, and cobalt, with nearly 75 to 85% coming from just one source: small potato-shaped rocks known as polymetallic nodules. These rare stones take millions of years to form naturally, as layer by layer, metals and minerals slowly deposit on them. And astonishingly, they cover about 9 million square kilometers of this seabed, weighing a total of around 21 billion tons. This is the treasure nations are fighting for, a silent, dangerous war tied not only to the health of our oceans but also to the survival of humanity itself. But why the sudden rush for these stones? The answer is simple: the green energy revolution. As the world shifts to fight climate change, technologies like solar panels, wind turbines, and electric vehicles are rising. And to power this future, critical minerals are essential. Reports suggest that by ocean beds, however, contain minerals thousands of times more concentrated than land deposits. Mining companies even claim that extracting these nodules could produce enough material for 150 million electric vehicle batteries. Just one mining site could electrify Japan's entire car market. The problem is, land-based mineral control lies in the hands of a few countries, especially China, which holds near monopoly over mining and processing. Many other reserves exist in politically unstable nations like the Democratic Republic of Congo. That's why Western powers like the US and Europe are desperate to reduce their dependence. But here lies the paradox. To save the planet, are we willing to destroy its most pristine ecosystems? In making Earth greener, are we turning its oceans black? That raises a big question. Who really controls these vast seabed resources? In 1982, the United Nations gave an answer through UNCLOS, the UN Convention on the Law of the Sea. It declared that areas beyond national boundaries, known as the area, belong not to any single country but to all humankind. To regulate this, the International Seabed Authority, ISA, was formed. So far, it has issued 31 exploration contracts, with China leading the race, holding 5. These contracts allow China to explore an ocean area nearly the size of New Zealand. China has advanced vehicles like the Mengxiang and mining robots like KO2, capable of working at depths beyond 4,000 meters. And China isn't just sticking to the ISA framework, it's making direct deals with small Pacific nations like the Cook Islands, expanding its influence aggressively. It's also one of ISA's biggest funders, giving it power to block discussions on marine conservation. China already controls 60% of global mining and nearly 90% of processing supply chain monopoly, and now it's making the US and Europe dependent on China for green energy and defense industries. Shockingly, the US has never ratified UNCLOS, meaning it isn't even an ISA member. Still, it's pushing its own plan. Under Donald Trump, an executive order allowed the US to issue mining licenses through its own domestic law, the 1980 Deep Seabed Hard Mineral Resources Act. Legal experts call this a clear violation of international law, undermining a system designed for cooperation. Critics argue this sets a dangerous example, encouraging other countries to bypass rules, risking conflict and even wars. And this race isn't limited to the US and China. Russia, Japan, South Korea, France, and Germany are all in the game with exploration contracts. India, too, is pursuing its own path of strategic autonomy, aiming to reduce dependence on China. To achieve this, India launched the Deep Ocean Mission, a massive project worth over 4.77 billion Indian rupees. Its crown jewel is Matsya 6000, India's first manned submersible, capable of carrying 3 people to depths of 6,000 meters. But here's the concern. All this is happening in a place humanity barely understands. The deep sea remains one of Earth's least explored regions. Studies suggest the Clarion-Clipperton Zone alone hosts 5,000 to 6,000 unique species found nowhere else, with nearly 90% living on the seafloor. When small-scale digging was done here in the 1980s, the ecosystem was devastated, 70 to 80% of species wiped out. Even 45 years later, recovery hasn't happened. We often think of the deep sea as one giant ecosystem, but that's a dangerous misconception. Each trench harbors its own life, evolved uniquely for that world. Believe it or not, when a blue whale dies and sinks, its 150-ton carcass in the dark depths of the ocean, 13,000 feet below the surface, for up to 50 years. A secret war is underway between 19 nations of the world. And none of these governments want their people to know about it. This area you see here is the Clarion-Clipperton Zone, the main battlefield of this silent war. It's so vast that 25 countries the size of the UK could fit inside it. But what kind of treasure lies hidden in this one specific region that makes nations spend billions of dollars just to reach the seabed? In the depths where even sunlight cannot reach, billionaires are sending advanced robotic machines crawling across the seafloor, extracting rocks, and bringing them to the surface. But why? Because the Clarion-Clipperton Zone is the most famous region for deep-sea mining. For billionaires, it's like a money printing machine. Research suggests that this single area alone contains metals and minerals worth nearly $16 to $17 trillion. Imagine, trillions worth of resources, including manganese, nickel, and cobalt, which are in the highest demand. In fact, nearly 75% to 85% of these critical metals come from one single source, potato-sized rocks known as polymetallic nodules. These nodules are incredibly rare, taking millions of years to form naturally as metals and minerals slowly deposit layer by layer. And here in this zone, they spread across 9 million square kilometers of the seafloor, weighing a total of about 21 billion tons. This treasure is what has sparked a silent yet dangerous war among the world's most powerful nations. A conflict that threatens not only the health of our oceans but also the survival of humanity itself. But why this sudden race for these nodules? The answer is simple. The green energy revolution. As the world fights climate change, we are turning to solar panels, wind turbines, and electric vehicles. But to power this green future, we need critical minerals. According to reports, the problem by 2050, the demands on nickel and cobalt will rise by 500%. These resources are thousands of times more concentrated than on land. Ocean mining companies even claim that seabed nodules alone could provide enough materials for 150 million electric vehicle batteries. To put that into perspective, just one mining site could electrify the entire Japanese car market. Another problem is control. On land, most critical mineral mining is controlled by just a few countries, especially China, which holds a near monopoly on mining and processing. Some reserves are also in politically unstable countries like the Democratic Republic of Congo. This worries Western powers like the US and Europe, pushing them into the seabed race. But here lies the biggest paradox. To save the planet by going green, are we willing to destroy one of its most pristine ecosystems? Who controls these ocean resources? In 1982, the United Nations answered this through the UNCLOS Treaty, declaring international waters as the common heritage of humankind. The International Seabed Authority, ISA, was created to regulate these resources beyond national boundaries. So far, ISA has issued 31 exploration contracts. China currently leads with 5 contracts, giving it rights to explore an area nearly the size of New Zealand. With advanced vehicles like Mengxiang and robots like Kaio 2, capable of operating 4,000 meters deep, China is racing ahead. But being China, it isn't just sticking to the ISA framework. It's also making direct deals with small Pacific nations like the Cook Islands, aggressively expanding its influence. With heavy funding and technical support, China has even built enough China's strategy is clear. ISA to block
It already
controls 60% of critical mineral mining and up to 90% of processing on land. By dominating seabed resources, China wants to ensure that the US and Europe remain dependent on it for green energy and defense industries. In economic terms, China aims to create an unbreakable supply chain monopoly, shifting global politics in its favor. For the first time under the New World Order, the US is lagging behind China. Shockingly, the US has never ratified UNCLOS, meaning it isn't even a member of the ISA. Still, America is playing its own game. Under Donald Trump, an executive order was signed allowing the US to issue mining licenses under its own domestic law, the Deep Seabed Hard Mineral Resources Act of 1980. Many countries and legal experts call this a violation of international law, as oceans were meant to be regulated fairly through cooperation. If this trend continues, it could spark a race to the bottom, where nations rush to stake claims, leading to conflicts and possibly wars. And it's not just the US and China. Russia, Japan, South Korea, France, and Germany also hold exploration contracts. India, too, as one of the world's biggest economies, is carving its own independent path with the Deep Ocean Mission. This 4.77 billion rupee initiative focuses on developing self-reliant deep-sea mining technologies. Its crown jewel is Matsya 6000, India's first manned submersible capable of carrying 3 people 6,000 meters below the ocean surface. China's strategy is clear. It already controls 60% of critical mineral mining and up to 90% of processing on land. By dominating seabed resources, China wants to ensure that the US and Europe remain dependent on it for green energy and defense industries. In economic terms, China aims to create an unbreakable supply chain monopoly, shifting global politics in its favor. For the first time under the New World Order, the US is lagging behind China. Shockingly, the US has never ratified UNCLOS, meaning it isn't even a member of the ISA. Still, America is playing its own game. Under Donald Trump, an executive order was signed allowing the US to issue mining licenses under its own domestic law, the Deep Seabed Hard Mineral Resources Act of 1980. Many countries and legal experts call this a violation of international law, as oceans were meant to be regulated fairly through cooperation. If this trend continues, it could spark a race to the bottom, where nations rush to stake claims, leading to conflicts and possibly wars. And it's not just the US and China. Russia, Japan, South Korea, France, and Germany also hold exploration contracts. India, too, as one of the world's biggest economies, is carving its own independent path with the Deep Ocean Mission. This 4.77 billion rupee initiative focuses on developing self-reliant deep-sea mining technologies. Its crown jewel is Matsya 6000, India's first manned submersible capable of carrying 3 people 6,000 meters below the ocean surface. And yet, despite clear evidence of destruction, powerful lobbies like the metals company, TMC, are pushing deep-sea mining forward. Ironically, TMC itself once funded scientists to study the deep sea. But when the harsh truth emerged, they tried to bury the findings. Are dollars really worth more than the fragile lungs of our oceans? As of June 2025, there is hope. Despite heavy lobbying, bribes, and pressure from mining companies, marine scientists and 33 nations now support a ban, or at least a temporary halt, on deep-sea mining. The International Union for Conservation of Nature, IUCN, has placed a moratorium until all risks are fully understood. But the bitter truth remains. Deep-sea mining is only one small trailer of humanity's negligence. Look at this massive patch of garbage floating in the Pacific. Twice the size of Pakistan, 3 times the size of Rajasthan. It's not land, but a mountain of trash. Concentrated in certain areas, this floating dump is larger than India when its edges are included. In 2014, a study estimated it contained at least 5.25 trillion pieces of plastic weighing 269,000 tons. And because of this one garbage patch, every year 1 million seabirds and 100,000 marine mammals die, either poisoned, entangled in nets, or trapped in plastic waste. Worse, this isn't the only one. There are at least 5 major garbage patches worldwide, with countless smaller ones. Explorer Victor Vescovo, during his 5 Deeps expedition, reached the deepest points of all 5 oceans, only to be greeted by plastic bags and wrappers, even 11 kilometers below the surface. Imagine, plastic pollution has reached the most remote, untouched parts of our planet. And it never disappears. It doesn't decompose naturally but keeps accumulating for centuries, poisoning marine life. Reports predict that by 2040, the amount of plastic in the oceans will triple, outnumbering fish. And this is just macroplastic. Microplastics are spreading even faster. A 2017 study found that 71% of seabirds and 30% of turtles had plastic in their stomachs, half of which died from it. Another study revealed that 99% of fish consumed by Americans contained microplastics. Shockingly, brain samples from humans showed up to 7 grams of plastic, equivalent to a credit card, inside each brain. Just think how much more would be in lungs, kidneys, and other organs. If this is true for Americans, imagine the situation in countries like India, where regulations on food, water, and air are far weaker. Microplastics have even been found in the placentas of newborn babies, affecting growth and development. Humanity is running at the speed of a horse, while the regulations to protect nature crawl slower than a turtle. Years of debates delay action until it's too late. We humans, nurtured by nature, have become its greatest enemies. After forests, mountains, and glacier, our oceans are next. This is no longer just about money or power, it's about the survival of nature itself. If we can't even preserve peace beneath the oceans, where is humanity headed? Every treasure has a price.